Brunson, Blonde Brunson, said before his UFC 271 title eliminator against Jared Cannonier that he had 2 fights left. And after losing by second round TKO in that matchup, and after a year away, he's going to be back to take on the up-and-comer, the former EFC welterweight middleweight champ, the former welterweight champ with KSW, StillKnocks, Dricus Du Plessis, representing South Africa. He represents Team CIT. His teammate, the much younger Cameron Saaiman, is also featured on this card. And for Du Plessis, I mean, the list goes on and on and on about all the accolades. His last loss was in 2018 to the champ, or he became the champ, and he was the champ before that. RoboCop, Roberto Soldic, won championships now own.
Very
since then,
fighter.
He's won 6 fights in a row, 5 of those 6 by finish. In the UFC, it started with Maluco Perez, who's going to box on that, what is it, Gamebred fight card?
Roy Jones Jr. versus Anthony Showtime Pettis.
StillKnocks was able to beat Trevin Giles. He was able to beat Brad Tavares in an all-time slosher. And then his last time out against Darren Till, he submitted him with one of the wildest performances you've ever seen. And that's the fun part. Both guys fought Darren Till in the past, but go ahead.
The Darren Till fight between him and Dricus Du Plessis is one of the weirdest fights you will ever watch in your whole entire life.
Turn the commentary off if you're going to watch it.
But, like, they both gain stock, but also kind of lose it in the fight. Like, that's the thing. Dricus Du Plessis rallies late and gets a finish, so you probably think, oh, he must have looked really impressive in the fight. But it's kind of like that Anakin Skywalker meme where it's like, he looked impressive in the fight, right? He looked impressed. Like, Darren Till teed off on him with a bunch of crazy counter
Marcus
shots.
Perez tees off on him, and
Like,
he shells up as he does in every
and
fight.
I brought another Star Wars character into every Dricus Du. It's like Jar Jar Binks. Like, he doesn't do anything right, but he still somehow wins and looks really impressive. Now, the Brad Tavares fight was starting to follow that same script, but Dricus Du Plessis was able to tag him with some really big shots later on in that fight. And that's the one thing about Du Plessis that is very commendable. For being a big power puncher, he is able to carry his power very late.
And another thing for Dricus Du Plessis, they're always going to talk about the...
Oh, yeah.
He's a heavy breather, but he's like a Nicholas Dalby. It starts early, it carries throughout the fight.
He's far better than Nicholas Dalby, though.
But it's still the same type of breathing technique. But for Dricus Du Plessis, numbers on a page, stats for both these guys. For Du Plessis, let's talk about it. 33-0 in kickboxing, he's got 30 knockouts. He started judo from 5 to 10, wrestled from 12 to 14, and in K1, he started at 15 and he became the WAKO world champ at 18. Kickboxing is his background. When he's a better wrestler than his opponent, he'll wrestle like he did in his Darren Till fight, and he was able to go out there and get the finish.
It's more athleticism, though, than like Daniel Cormier technique.
And it is. And if you look at Du Plessis and just his 2 losses, so Du Plessis is 4-0 and 20 years old against 32-year-old Gareth McLennan in a KSW, in an EFC title fight. And the announcers are like, Gareth, he's the best fighter on the continent. And yeah, that night he was. Dricus goes in there, rushes for a lot of his strikes, fights in a somewhat similar manner to what he fights like now. But McLennan was able to go out there and take him down, try and threaten with the takedown. Dricus did the same thing. Dricus on every takedown entry threatens with a submission, so it backs off McLennan. But as the fight goes on, McLennan has more and more success. He submits Dricus Du Plessis. And in the second Roberto Soldic fight, first fight, Dricus wipes his face off the planet of the earth. But in the second fight, it was Soldic going out there and doing the exact same thing.
We need a trilogy.
Second round, Soldic. Round 2, he was able to hit him hard. Third round, wobbles him, lands the left hand, and knocks him out. But when you look at it overall, Dricus has all these accolades in kickboxing. Derek Brunson, Blonde Brunson, Matt. He was a D2 All-American multiple times over. And for Brunson, he used his wrestling well when he came into the UFC. You think about the Chris Lieben fight. You think about the win that he had over Lorenz Larkin. Wrestled a ton. And then all of a sudden he vaporized guys in the first round. Ed Herman, Sam Alvey, Carnero, and Uriah Hall. No wrestling at all.
I don't know if this is the thing in hockey, but like Vince Carter, for instance, was a superstar when he was in his prime, right? He was able to do everything on a team. But as he got older, his role would get diminished, and he had to become more of a specialized player, become more of a 3-and-D guy than just really a 3 guy because he didn't really have his athleticism. Derek Brunson has regressed in some areas of his game, and I think that's fair to say. He doesn't still have the same confidence in his own striking to just go in there, bum rush guys like he once did.
Like he did on that knockout.
Exactly. And like we even saw that at the start of the Robert Whittaker fight because, hey, he was able to get away with that.
Hey.
Robert Whittaker walked backwards, hit him with a left hook, and knocked him out. Now,
fight of the night.
It was, a wild 2 minutes for as long as it is. But we have seen the limitations of Derek Brunson striking against guys at the highest level. And to his credit, he was able to figure that out, be self-aware enough to then go into his wrestling. And that's why there's a little part in my mind that looks at this fight very similar as the Edmund Shabazian fight that Derek Brunson had. His opponent has all the hype, has a lot of promise, has looked very good up until this point, maybe has shown a weakness here or there, and Derek Brunson puts on the wrestling shoes and is able to have a good performance. This is the only issue I do have with Derek Brunson, though, at this stage of his career. I think he can have success with the wrestling. I just don't know where his chin is at this point. He's never been the most durable guy, and I know Jared Cannonier is a massive puncher, but I think it's fair to say it's not like Cannonier knocked him out with an overhand right. He hits him with a back fist as he's walking backwards and then knocks him out later on. Now, the elbows are vicious that he lands on the ground, but the initial shots that have Derek Brunson hurt are not big-time shots by any means. That's why I think if Du Plessis gets him hurt, Du Plessis burns pretty hot on a slow day, so if he gets him hurt, I easily see a finish after.
Brunson, too, I mean, you watch that first round, Brunson is all over him with the takedowns. He drops him with a short right hand that he drops him within close. Then he gets right into mount, and then the round's over. And Brunson in the second round slowed down a bit. Cannonier sped up. He was landing the elbows. He landed the tough shot. But for me, Brunson from 2019 to 2021 went, y'all must have forgotten. I talked about the wrestling that he had against, Chris Lieben and Lorenz Larkin. But from 2019 to 2021, co-main event against Elias Theodorou, beats him. Then he takes on Ian Heinisch, main card UFC 241, beats him. Then he takes on Shabazian, main event of a fight night, beats him. Then he goes out there and he takes on Kevin Holland, main event, beats him. Then
Wrestling was prominent in all those.
Then he takes on Darren Till in a main event and beats him. And for Derek Brunson, main event, co-main event, and then the fight that was on a main card of the pay-per-view, if you look at that and those 5 fights, all 5 wins, 19 takedowns in 5 fights, and Derek Brunson wrestling again, having success. And if you look at it in the fights that he had against Adesanya and the other loss against Jacare, the rematch, he wasn't able to get it going that way. But the weird one is, that doesn't fit my mold, is his fight against Cannonier, where he goes, 2 of 9 on takedown attempts, but he's all over the action until he starts to slow down a little bit and get clipped.
And that's what you worry about with Brunson. When he gets hurt, he doesn't recover all that well after he initially gets hurt. And again, Du Plessis might not be the most technical striker in the world, and he might leave himself open to get taken down because he does rush forward. But if he hurts Brunson, the avalanche that ensues after he gets him hurt is probably going to be good enough to get him finished. But again, Derek Brunson's been in 17 of these fights where it's, hey, you're the big name, this guy has a lot to gain off beating you, but Brunson has been able to turn back a lot of those guys. It's just when Brunson fights other guys who are in the top 5, top 10, that's when he struggles.
Yeah, and I was reading the book on the plane there this weekend, Fighter's Mind, the Sam Sheridan book, and Greg Jackson talks about you don't want to have all the peaks and valleys, you want to fight consistently. So if you hurt a guy, then you start picking your shots. You don't get too wild. Dricus Du Plessis takes that and just rips it up.
Against Brunson, though, just go for it. Like, Brunson isn't Michael Bisping. You're not going to blow your load trying to get him out of there and then him just piece you apart afterwards because he has superior cardio. Brunson, doesn't have great cardio to begin with at this stage of his career. He's almost 40. Like, that's what we have to remember.
He's a man.
That run was a long time ago. He fought Robert Whittaker in 2016. So that run was pre-2016. So
and then he went on another run from 2019 to 2021.
But a lot of those guys in the 2019 to 2021 were those up-and-coming prospects who still had a lot to prove. Every time he did fight the upper echelon guy, that's when he would struggle. Like, Jacare wasn't even in his prime the second time they fought. He knocked him out with a head kick. That's what I worry about with Brunson. I think he has all the skills to win this fight. I just don't know if he has the durability to match.
Du Plessis is a big favorite in the matchup. Again, Brunson hasn't fought in over a year. He's blonde Brunson. If you go back and check his Twitter, Killcliff FC for the longest time training there. We have a look at the topology votes, Matt. Surprise to us there, to you. Now, the young South African fighter in Cameron Saaiman had a big fan vote for him, and he looked good very recently. Du Plessis had a wild fight in his last time out. I think the fans are going to have him over under 70% Du Plessis.
I think it'll be over.
Over? And it's over. So it's 1,524 total votes, 77% Du Plessis, 72% by knockout. For the 23% that have Brunson, 61% by decision. So fans majority have Du Plessis, majority have him to win by knockout. It happened in Brunson's last fight. But again, we've seen Brunson fight guys like this in the past and just kind of wear on them and beat them.
I have a far too accurate prediction that I'll give my actual one. I think Du Plessis is going to knock out Derek Brunson with Travis Brown elbows up against the cage in this fight. I think Brunson is going to have to go for quite a few takedowns in the fight because at distance, I do favor Du Plessis quite a bit at this stage of his career. When Brunson was more in his prime athletically, he could get that kind of low shuffling stance, threaten with a lot of the overhands, and then go for the takedown afterwards. He is a little bit more takedown heavy now with his style. So again, if he is able to get the takedown successfully, get his ground and pound off, that's the thing about Brunson. He does have great ground and pound from the top position. He's not a wrestler who's just going to wait out and not really do anything. He's going to try to hurt you with a lot of his punches. So I think Brunson has a great opportunity to hit as the underdog. I just think Du Plessis, with his overall striking ability, he's very heavy-handed at different ranges. He doesn't just need the long range to get knockouts. He can hurt guys up close. He can hurt guys in the middle range too. And that's why I have Dricus in this fight.
Du Plessis with his fight IQ, when he gets hit, and he gets hit in a lot of his fights, what does Du Plessis do? He wrestles, and he leaves his head out. And that's where Brunson, if Brunson's able to hurt Du Plessis is in a world of hurt in that matchup. For me, I'm ever so slightly going with Du Plessis, but the thing that scares me is, what does he do all the time? At distance, but if he gets backed up. Really high shelled up guard with his head back and his hands up, completely exposing his lower body. UFC stats are going to say 50% takedown defense for Du Plessis. Brad Tavares went 0 of 1. Yeah. Darren Till went 1 of 1. There's your 50%. They're the only two that tried.
Darren Till's not some great wrestler by any means.
And it's 1 of 2. So for me, I have Du Plessis ever so slightly. I think the power can take him through in a matchup like this. But again, Derek Brunson, 3-time All-American at UNC Pembroke, and we've seen that in fights in the past and when he went on his last run. So I don't know if this will truly be Blonde Brunson's last fight. As he suggested before his last fight, he only had 2 left. It was going to be beat Cannonier, beat Adesanya, see you later, alligator. So for both of us, Matt, going with Stillknocks Dricus Du Plessis.
Great fight, though.
Great fight in the middleweight division. Some great fights on this card. John Jones taking on Gane in the main event. Can't wait for it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, and as we always say, let's get into it.